Hey guys, how are you doing? And welcome to lesson number 2. Before we start lesson number 2 talking about goals, I just want to have a quick review about goals, right? And from last lesson, we learned just the examples and the structure of describing goals. We had two ways. The first one using to plus an action, right? So in this case, we focus more on actions, right? Get good grades, study at least 30 minutes a day, right? So for example, if our goal is to get good grades, we're going to achieve it, study at least 30 minutes a day. That's how we're going to achieve our goal. And when we want to talk about our goals, we would say something like, in order to get good grades, it's important to study at least 30 minutes a day, right? So, in order to get good grades, it's important to study at least 30 minutes a day. Again, another example, buy my first car. How? Save money and have a good credit score. In order to buy your first car, it's a good idea to save money and have a good credit score. Remember that we also we talked about describing goals using for and then a noun, right? For example, a successful business, established niche, and a good business plan. So in order for a business to be successful, it needs to have an established niche and a good business plan. All right, another example is a healthy body. How? Well, with fruits, vegetables, and exercise. In order for our body to be healthy, it has to have fruits, vegetables, and exercise. Okay, so let's continue with this, talking about goals. So I just have a case here of a restaurant, right? So a lot of people, especially people who are considering investing in a business in order to make money, to make it profitable, right? To become independent, right? So maybe if you don't want to work a 9 to 5 job and you want to do something you really enjoy, maybe you enjoy cooking, right? Or you enjoy food, etc. Maybe you're thinking of opening up a restaurant, right? So imagine you are having a conversation with a friend, maybe, or a restaurant owner. Maybe you want to know, right, what things you need to consider, what kinds of goals you should have, what kinds of things you should do, etc. Well, then in this conversation with the restaurant owner, well, this person probably will give you tips and information such as this one, right? So for example, number 1, well, imagine you're Jimmy, right? And your name is Jimmy and you want to open up a restaurant. And then imagine I am going to give you advice and my opinion for a successful restaurant, okay? So I am Joe. And then Jimmy says, hey Joe, I know you have a restaurant, tell me a little bit more. I want to have a successful restaurant. Okay, what can you say? Well, what tips could you give me? Then Joe could say something like, well, to establish a restaurant, it's a good idea to cook great tasting food, right? If you don't have delicious food, you will not have any customers at all, because obviously if you are in the restaurant business, that means the food has to be delicious. Okay, so to establish a restaurant, it's a good idea to cook great tasting food. So what kind of structure did we use? We're using to plus an action, right? To establish, right? To cook. Then maybe Joe can continue giving you information, and he could say something like, for the restaurant to be successful, it needs to be on a convenient location. If you are not on a convenient location, obviously no one is going to notice your restaurant. So you have to be on a crowded street, or I don't know, near a park, etc., right? Near a touristic place, whatever. Okay, so he would say, for the restaurant to be successful, Jimmy, it needs to be on a convenient location. Okay, so that would be his second tip. Then he would probably continue giving you more tips on how to have a successful restaurant, right? So maybe you could ask, okay, well, how do I find a convenient location, right? Maybe Jimmy asks that. How do I find a convenient location? What do I do? Then Joe would say, well, to find a convenient location, it's important to develop a market research. And you go, oh, okay, good, right? So again, to find a convenient location, it's important to develop a market research. Okay? And then maybe Jimmy says, well, a market research? What is that? Or what do I have to do? Right? And then Joe could say something like, well, for the market research to be useful, it has to be clear and specific, right? So you need to find your niche, right, in order for the information to be helpful and you can have a better market research. All right, so as you can see, we have 4 different tips from Joe given to Jimmy about a successful restaurant, right? So the first one, we used to plus a verb. The second one, we used for and a noun, right? In this case, restaurant. Number 3, we used to and a verb. And number 4, we used for and a noun, market research. All right. So this is the end of lesson 2. If you have any questions, let me know. And obviously, it doesn't have to be about restaurants, right? And when we talk about goals, we talk about success. It could be about anything, at school, at work, with a project, at home, right? Anyone can give you tips to be able to have something successful, right? So it could be anything. It doesn't have to do with business, right? Success doesn't have to do with businesses. It could be academically, right? So having good grades, maybe winning an award, winning a contest. It could be with sports, right? Maybe you want to learn how to play basketball or tennis, and maybe you could ask someone to give you some information on how to be a successful basketball player, a successful soccer player, right? So I don't know. Are you? Well, my question is: are you good at something like sports or school or subjects or any other particular thing? If you are, well, you probably give advice to your friends, and you should, okay? Especially if you have experience. Okay. Well, this is the end of the lesson. Have a nice day.